If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.
Welcome, Patriots, fellow believers, to another episode of SDN Broadcast. We are here to stand firm for faith, family, and freedom. I know you are here because those values and traditional principles that were built on this great nation, self-reliance, hard work, and a deep trust in God's plan for our lives. We're not here to sugarcoat truth or bow to culture's lies. We are here to equip you with the knowledge you need to protect loved ones and preserve Christian heritage. I am your host, John Wheaton, founder of Righteous Savages, and joining me tonight, we haven't been on a stream together in a long time, Chris Heaven, CEO of Survival Dispatch. We're both honored to be here with you. How are you tonight, Chris?
I'm not actually here. I'm just pretending to be here.
So he's kind of playing producer because we have a new format. A little bit more concise, getting right to the point of what we are doing. And it's going to be a little bit shorter than what you guys are used to, but I think you're going to really enjoy the more concise and straight to the point format that we have. So today, we're diving deep into the birth of the beast. And I wrote an article that is on Substack currently, the Righteous Savages Substack, about this. This is Marx, Engels, and the Communist Manifesto. We've been teasing it for a while to get you guys in on this this group of episodes about specific angles of Marxism, communism, and authoritarianism. But today we're going to unpack the origins because we have to start at the beginning. Karl Marx's hatred for God, Engels' elitism in writing the Communist Manifesto, and we'll expose how it wasn't a workers' movement, but a bitter, godless power grab from the beginning. No fluff, just what you need to know. Understand the roots of this ideology and how it's still threatening to our way of life. We don't have any special announcements today, so we'll get straight into the news. And one of the new things that we are doing is we like to highlight something that one of our guardians, and quick plug for the Guardians, if you guys are interested in further, deeper content for the from Survival Dispatch, you can sign up for the Guardians plan on our Substack or our Patreon. Just go over to patreon.com/Survival Dispatch or survivaldispatch.news on Substack, and you can sign up for $9.99 a month, and you get a myriad of options and great benefits for doing that. You get our daily sit rep gets sent out to all of our guardians. You also get access to our survival guide, all of our emags, as well as other behind the scenes content. You also get the Saturday stream, the aftermath, or actually it's not on Saturday. It's going to be on Mondays. I apologize. That was a mistake on my part. It's actually going to be on Mondays after our episode now. So you'll get 2 hours of content instead of the normal one. And one of the things that we're doing is we're highlighting some of the things that the Guardians will drop in our Signal chat. And that is also another benefit that you get, is you get the Signal chat. And in there is a lot of things that get shared. And I saw this one and I absolutely loved it. This was from Dale, and we'll go ahead and pop it up there. This is how judges thwarted Lincoln. And this is kind of a hypothetical thing, but President Lincoln, circuit court judge, just blocked your Emancipation Proclamation. Ugh, boy, that's comical, but it's also a stark reminder of how unelected bureaucrats can overreach and undermine the will of the people. We all voted for this. We voted for what is going on. We voted for the things that are happening. And it seems like these judges that really don't have the power to overrule the president are trying to do that ad nauseum. They don't want to actually adhere to the way the Constitution lays this out. And we have long been skeptical of centralized power. especially when it's wielded by judges who think they know better than we the people. That's what the Constitution starts off with, we the people. So that this kind of judicial activism is exactly why we need to stay vigilant and protect the constitutional rights. Unfortunately, we don't have any more headlines to share, but the story shows why we can't let our guard down. Okay, now we're going to move on to the main topic. And did you have something, Chris? Sorry.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
I wanted to ask the audience, just to get you guys engagement, what do you think how prevalent is the threat of communism today? Because you don't hear communism in your water cooler speeches like you did maybe in the 1950s, 1960s during the McCarthy era and the Red Scare and all of that kind of stuff. We don't really hear it talked about on a regular basis. It's kind of a passing thing. But how difficult or how big is the threat of communism as we start to explore its origins? So if you think that communism is just as big of a threat today as it was back when this original document was penned in 1948 or 1848, put a 1 in the chat. If you think that it has lost some of its power and it's not as big of a threat as other things, put a 2 in the chat, because I think I want to get kind of a barometer of what you guys think. And you may actually change your mind by the time we get through this episode. So as American conservatives and Christians, we know the importance of standing for truth and defending God-given rights. Today's topic hits the core of that fight. We are unpacking origins of communism. So let's start with subtopic number 1. Karl Marx, hatred of God. So let's start with this man. Who is Karl Marx? He was a guy who disagreed with religion. He despised it. Marx called religion the opium of the people. In other words, it was a drug to keep the masses in line. And his theory was that the elites used religion as a power tool to shift the view of the lesser, the serfs, for lack of a better term. And so this is from, I actually recently demonized Christianity Today, and it used to be a very good magazine, actually. This is an old article, I think, from the 1950s. Wow. And this is talking about Marxism, the opiate of the people, literally what Marx used as a term for religion. He saw faith as a barrier to his vision for a godless utopia. And that's always the promise. Where the state reigns supreme, for us as Christians, this is personal. Marx wasn't just rejecting God. He was rejecting the very foundation of morality and the freedom that comes from our Creator. Remember, when we talk about our Constitution, we're talking about God-given rights. This is endowment from our Creator. That means that God just gave us the gift that we spell out in the Constitution. Inalienable rights. That means they don't actually, it doesn't matter where you come from, who you are. If you are in this country, these are the rights given to you by God. That could be spread out even further, but we're talking about it from the context of Christianity and Americans and how we should view this stuff. So he was rejecting the very foundation of morality and freedom. The Catholic thing has a great review of Paul Kinger's book, The Devil and Karl Marx, which dives deep into Marx's spiritual rebellion. I can tell you, I actually put in here, we're not going to play the video, but I actually posted I will actually put a post of a video from this author with Jordan Peterson for about an hour and a half episode of his podcast, where he actually dives deep into Marx's real love affair with the devil. Like, he absolutely had this love affair with satanic principles, with all of this demonic ideology from very on early in his life. So Marx actually had a deep hatred of God. That wasn't a side note. It was fuel for the ideology. It was just a open rebellion against God. He wanted to tear down the church because it stood in the way of his power grab. That's why communism has always targeted Christians, from the Soviet Union to China today. If you look throughout history, and we're going to get into that as we talk about the different aspects as we march through history on the persecution and the body count. That's the thing that anybody that thinks that communism just hasn't been tried the right way, it's just not had the right inputs. That's always the thing that's always told, right? You hear these kids that just come out of these Marxist colleges that are like, well, communism's a great idea. It just hasn't been tried correctly. It's just not had the right scenario for it to flourish. Well, 120 million people dead over in the 20th century alone, between Mao, Stalin, and all of the others. Man, that's a testament to how actual evil this is, an anti-God, an anti everything that we stand for. So that's where Marx's hatred of God is basically laid out. And I would encourage everybody to look into this book. If you can find, I think you can find it on Amazon for like $20. It's a good read. You could probably find an audiobook of it. It's a very good read on a lot of the details that we can't cover in an hour. But Marx was a very deeply troubled man. He was known for having poor hygiene. He was actually kicked out of some public spaces because he wouldn't wash his hair or bathe. He was really a disgusting individual. And that's the father of Marxism. No wonder some of the people that espouse Marxism smell like pigs sometimes. So
I was just going to ask you, is that a thing? Because many of those people, that have rings in their noses and pink and purple hair, you can smell them a mile away. I mean,
Yep.
Are they anti-hygiene?
I guess it smells like a mixture of pot and BO and, not cleaning yourself when you go to the bathroom. It's disgusting. But yes, I know exactly what you mean. But Marx wasn't alone, because Marx, being this, he was also a very, very lazy person. He wanted to be this artistic writer. That's really was his dream. He wrote plays that had demonic characters in them, very, very, very steeped in a lot of this stuff. And but he couldn't have caught traction without some help. And much like some of the bad ideology we see now, there's always these elites that want to really back these bad ideas. So enter Friedrich Engels. Friedrich Engels, he was Marx's partner in crime. Engels came into wealth. His family owned factories, and he lived a life of privilege while preaching about the working class. Sounds like the elitism we see today in today's leftist leaders. Like, the pattern is very, very similar throughout history, that we see it just repeating itself, that elites prop up people with bad ideas because they want to control a lower class of person, and people buy into this stuff. So Engels really actually was one of the guys that funded Marx's work. But he also brought a sense of superiority to the table. He saw himself as an intellectual. And he saw himself as really a superior person. So if you read this, the Libertarian Catholic, and this is a quote from Fulton Sheen, our venerable archbishop. Communism is founded in the denial of inner and outer freedom, the denial of God and private property. The two go together. So that's the first two breakdowns, is that you don't own anything and you don't have any religion. So what is something recently that we have heard about not owning anything? Off the top of my head, there seems to be something there. I'm not sure. something about maybe you'll own nothing and be happy. Is that what it was? Huh. It's funny because, 1848 is alive today in the elites of the World Economic Forum because they're positing the same theory of not owning anything, no private property, no freedom, just the security that they will offer you to live in a pod and eat the bugs. Nothing has really changed.
I can't do the accent like Mike Sterling. I apologize.
You
Without
eat
him here,
the
we're
bugs. Yes.
right. And be happy.
Yes. So Fulton Sheen nails it when he says communism denies both God and private property. The two things go hand in hand for our freedom. Engels didn't care about the workers. He cared about control. Together, Marx and Engels crafted a system that is inherently anti-Christian because it replaces God with the state and strips away individual rights that we hold dear. So, if we are looking at a system that is going to take away any kind of freedom, I mean, remember, all rights come from the Creator. That is spelled out in our Constitution and all supporting documents. The most important supporting document, the Bible, it talks about personal freedom and liberty. And this is really where it's basically from the beginning of communism. It diverges from Christianity. There is no world in which these two can actually survive or flourish together. This is why we have tension with all of these countries that are embracing communism, and in our own country with people that the ideology of communism is in their heart. And then we've got people that are actually freedom-loving Americans who want to have freedom, want to be left alone by the government, want the government to be smaller. And notice all of the people that are squawking about them trying to shrink the government right now. That means that there's some sort of this ideology embedded in that person to think that God, their God, is government. And make no mistake, before I get into the next section of this, every man has a God. Every man has a religion. The left does too. The godless still have a religion. It just depends on whether your religion is in God or if it's in the state. Because that's what communism and Marxism does, is it replaces every bit of authority with the authority of the state. So now we move on to the culmination of these two godless people and what they did. So Karl Marx published the Communist Manifesto in February 21st, 1848. This was Marx and Engels' publishing of this document, and it was a blueprint for tyranny. That has been the blueprint for tyranny ever since it was published. We'll get into Lenin, we'll get into Mao, we'll get into Stalin in future episodes, but this is the beginning of it. This is the manuscript for this religion. This is the manuscript for really evil, the antithetical thinking that is opposing what we believe in as Christians and conservatives and Americans. So you can read more about that pivotal moment in what Chris has up here. And it was published in London by a group of German-born revolutionary socialists known as the Communist League, originally published in Germany as the Manifest der, I can't pronounce that word. So it was the Manifesto of the Communist Party. And that was just in German. See, this is where we need Mike Sterling. I'm sure he could say it off in German too.
Well, hold on a second. Is there any chance? Let me see if it doesn't look like it wants to come up. Sometimes if you right click on it in Mac, it'll give you the opportunity to
Control F.
Have AI. No, AI will read it off for you. But for some reason, it's not coming up on this page. So.
Yep. So this is what's really interesting is this kind of lay dormant up until the early 20th century. And it was really kind of a dead document that few people actually paid attention to. It wasn't a call for fairness or equality. It was a declaration of war on faith, family, and freedom. But it also wasn't anything that was like immediately impactful. It was really something that was written, published, and kind of laid dormant, like an animal surviving the winter by hibernating. It was really just this festering thing that sat underneath the surface for almost a century before it really started having an impact on the world. It calls for the abolishment of private property, which Pope Pius the 11th condemned in his encyclical Divinae. I can't read these. I apologize, guys. I should probably plug these in so I can learn how to pronounce them. Anyways, Redemptoris, which is found in the next link that Chris will share. The Catholic Church has long recognized that communism is a threat. In fact, in the faith community, there are way more. When I started doing my research, I mean, it was like 90% of the documents that popped up in the writings were Catholic. The Catholics caught this very, very quickly. Protestants, still as dumb as Protestants are, and I do believe that there are a lot of things that Protestants get right that Catholics don't, being a Protestant myself, that's neither here nor there. But I feel like the Protestant side of faith has really just ignored communism, except for a select few. And the Catholic Church really stood up against this, and were very, very they opposed it very, very early in its inception. And
so, I was just going to say, John, the AI shows up on this page, so it could potentially cover off some of these oddball names and how to say them, and then again, it might just completely butcher them, just for the heck of it. Since we're in our new format here, let's see how it does with this paragraph here.
The promise of a Redeemer brightens the first page of the history of mankind, and the confident hope aroused by this promise softened the keen regret for a paradise which had been lost. It was this hope that accompanied the human race on its weary journey, until in the fullness of time the expected Savior came to begin a new universal civilization, the Christian civilization, far superior even to that which up to this time had been laboriously achieved by certain more privileged nations.
That wasn't too bad.
Not too bad. I mean, I'm used to hearing that when you scroll through Facebook and you see reels, half of them have that AI voice on them anyway. So, but the archbishops, the patriarchs of the Catholic Church, came out and wrote multiple writings. I mean, I'm telling you, like when I was researching this, it was like you could ask for articles and 90% of them were from the Catholic Church, whether it be an archbishop or even some of the popes wrote against them. It was very, very much antithetical, and they saw it antithetical to their faith and the gospel. And it's kind of ironic because I think our last pope was kind of a friendly to communism in a lot of ways when you actually look at what he stood for.
The last pope was the Obama of the Vatican.
Yes, you're right.
I don't know who coined that term, but I agree with it.
Yep, it's 100%. So this is really the movement that was started there, but it did have a counter very, very quickly. The manifesto's goal was the centralization of power at the hands of a few, all while claiming to liberate the masses. Remember, it was the call was, and the last, I think it was the last phrase of the manifesto, is the workers of the world unite. This was a call for the masses to stand up and to be, to be counted, to be a part of this uprising, this revolution, to bring equality and fairness to them. And Not necessarily because it was a meritocracy, but because it was what they deemed to be fair, what they deemed to be correct. Ironically, the way that our country was founded is exactly what the Communist Manifesto tries to promise. But our Constitution actually starts with "we the people," right? That is the people, the whole people, not just the working class, not just the elites, but everybody who's an American. So it was really what he actually promised in this, and what he was actually trying to get was this unification of something. But the reality is you can't unify people of different work ethics, different drives, different things like that, and that's where it falls apart. Communism actually has this great sounding thing of equality, and everybody has everything that they need, everything that they want. But the problem is it actually has one fatal flaw, and that is that it does not take into account human nature, or as I would call it as a Christian, a sinful nature. That people, when they start to get power, will continue to grab power. And so what you see with communism is that they centralize power, and then those people rule over the masses. And then if the masses revolt, they kill them and they jail them and they do whatever they can to maintain control. And as sad as it is, I think that this spirit and this influence is in our country now, because you just have to look at the elites and what's going on with them today. And we can see very, very clearly that they are they are very, 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 very interested in holding on to their power. I mean, we haven't seen the Epstein list yet. I think there's a reason for that. We haven't seen a lot of other things. And I think there's a reason for that, because the powerful want to stay in power. You wonder why all of these senators, very powerful senators, are suddenly calling it quits at being senators? It could be a coincidence, but I don't think so. So communism's our last part of this main topic is probably the more large of the four, and it is communism's lasting effect on faith and freedom. And this is communism doesn't die with Marx and Engels. It's still alive and well today. And you can see here, this is another Catholic. This is the National Catholic Register, which is a publication that puts forth a lot of writings from within the Catholic Church. What Karl Marx said about Christians, Jews, and blacks underscores the racial divide between communist ideology and the Catholic doctrine. One thing that's interesting to take into effect, because I always want to look at kind of the past, but also look at it through a mirror of what's going on now. Look at Karl Marx. He talks Christians, Jews, and blacks. Well, what's the biggest divisive issues right now in our country? Faith. There's a lot of talk about Jews, and I don't really want to get into that necessarily today. There's arguments to be made for a lot of different angles on that, but it's the same thing. It's the race thing. You know, we still see the race baiting to the black community from the left. And we see all of the stuff about the Jews, and then Christians are still persecuted around the world. So it's the same thing. It's not changed over what is it? Almost 200 years that we're talking about here. You know, before I pass on, it will be the 200th anniversary of the Communist Manifesto. And look in that 200 years, what has happened? They're still trying to divide. So they use whatever wedge issues they can to actually divide on those issues. It's hard to do class warfare it's hard to do class warfare in the United States, because we have have historically had a robust middle class, and it's hard to divide because the lower class becomes middle class, and middle class becomes the upper middle class or upper class. And there's a path forward to that. And so it's hard to divide on that. But what is something in the United States that we have an issue with? Slavery was one of the big hot button issues at the founding. We fought a war where 600,000 men died in it for the freedom of slavery. So race issues are a big issue. So that's what they divide on. That's what they want to divide on. And it's very, very interesting that they're still using the same tactics. And you will see this as we continue to go through this series or these episodes on different aspects of communism. You will see that they use the same tactics. They just wrap it in different clothing. As we did our episode last week on cultural Marxism in the church, we are seeing them start to infect some of the elite side of the church as well. As we look more into this, and this is also mentions the book, The Devil and Karl Marx. This is an insanely deep dive into what Marx had a love for, and that was satanic behavior, satanic. He would every one of his plays that he wrote was dipped deeply in satanic imagery and themes. So he was very much a one of those. He's very much inspired by demonic themes and demonic forces in his ideology. Several of his children actually even committed suicide because of the torment that they went through being his children. It's pretty actually sad when you look at it, but multiple of his children, I think there were 4 that committed suicide, which is pretty insane. But this is the crux of a lot of this stuff, is that we have a theological underpinning of the theological underpinnings of communism show how this is more than just political, it's a spiritual battle. And so then you have the
So I know this isn't in your brief, but I had pulled it up to look at it in the background because it caught my attention. The Catholic case for communism. This is some twisted thinking, man. Like
2019.
It's unbelievable. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
I just wanted to throw it up on screen.
That's really good. Is there anything in there that scroll down just a little bit? Let's look real quick at that. Sorry, guys. This is very interesting. I didn't see this.
Because this was one of the links hidden in one of your other articles, and this is just crazy. There was a statement here that caught my eye. I'm trying to see where it is. There you go. She was attempting to create sympathy for the people attracted to communism and overcome knee-jerk prejudice against them. And she specifically tried to indoctrinate people in her Catholic church to see the benefits of communism. I mean, it couldn't be more diametrically opposed.
Right. Yep. And that's the you'll also find one of the things that's going to be in one of the later episodes of this is the communism actually has a love for specific things, specific movements. One of them is feminism. They have a deep love for the feminist ideology. There is a reason for that. Communism has like 3 or 4 main goals. First is to take out the religion. Second is to take out the family. Third is to take out the so in the family aspect is to take out the father and then divide the father with the mother, and then they fight and war over the children. That is the goal of what they want. They want to break up the family, they want to break up the church, and then they can infiltrate those key institutions. These are institutions that were created by God. The third is gender ideology, and there's a ton of that. They all have these goals, and it's all an assault on really what was the first thing that God did in Genesis. He created the world, but then he created the family. The word economy, do you guys know what the root of economy is? It's rooted in actually a family level running of a household. It's actually not necessarily a national word. It's more of on the family level is what the word economy actually means. And so when we start to talk about that, communism always wants to break down those institutions first, because then once those are gone, then it can control everything. Then taking control of the government, you're playing divide and conquer left and right. And over time, you take it.
Sentence I just highlighted, John, speaks to the end goal.
Yes.
Communism seeks to have a classless society. Of course, there's people at the top who are going to abuse their power, but everybody else, like you said, eats the bugs and is happy about it.
Yep.
And this is a really interesting article. American Magazine, or pardon me, AmericaMagazine.org, and look for Catholic case for communism. I'm going to paste it into the chat as well.
Yeah.
This is a crazy read. This is really, I mean, I can't believe that anybody in their right mind would try and stitch Catholicism or Christianity together with communism. It's hard to believe.
Yes, it is. And it's also, you can clearly see throughout history that is the goal. That is what they want more than anything, is to break up these institutions, because Marx viewed them. And you know else who views these institutions as evil or as wrong? The devil. Absolutely. That's always his goal, is to infiltrate. I'm going to post or paste something else in the chat that you guys should bookmark and go back and watch. It's the aforementioned, it's about an hour and 30 minutes long, Jordan Peterson's podcast, where he has the author of the Devil and Karl Marx. Fascinating. This dude is brilliant when it comes to Marx, and really kind of set me on this path when I watched this episode literally like 4 months ago. And it is a powerful episode, and it shows the love that he had for that demonic thing.
John, I want to mention, just, I mean, we talk on a daily basis, of course. I just want to let our audience know that John has invested a significant amount of his time in investigating communism so he can speak intelligently on it as to why it's just not a good solution. I mean, we have a lot of younger people in our country. Actually, we've got a bunch of baby boomers as well that would be like the counterculture from the 60s and 70s that still think that communism is a good thing. And Bernie Sanders would be one of the biggest cheerleaders. Yep. How many homes does he have? 3 homes or something?
He has 4.
And I don't know.
4 homes worth a combined like $13 or $14 million.
Sounds like communism to me.
Yep. Communism's really, actually, you know, communism's great if you're wealthy. It's really good. Let's just be honest. It's really good if you're wealthy. If you are the elite, this is the whole Engels thing.
If you're wealthy and if you want to go straight to hell.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an elitist ideology. This is why you see stuff today like the World Economic Forum and the elites in the UN and the EU and all of these that think that they can control you and think that they know better. They know how to run your life better than you know how to run your life. It's a God complex. I mean, you could get into a lot of side things, but what was the medical establishment doing during 2020? We know better about your health than you do. Yep. We know better about that's communism. That is literally communism. And you know, Heritage Foundation actually has this really amazing. And I'll link this in for our guardians. But there's another article there, Chris, for the Heritage Foundation. And this is actually an excerpt from Jesse Kelly. Jesse Kelly is a really, or no, this is a different article.
Which one was the one? That's the one I've got teed up next in the brief.
Okay. All right. Yep. Yeah. Okay.
That Real Clear Religion, heritage.org, and then the
Yeah.
YouTube video.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
want the,
Yeah.
you want the heritage one?
Yeah. The heritage one. Sorry about that. Yep.
Yeah, no problem. That's why I'm here to produce. See how smooth things go when
Yes,
we
absolutely.
don't have to rub our belly and pat our head and talk at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. It's a big deal. It's a game changer, as you would say. So this is a really interesting article, and Jesse Kelly is one of my favorites. If you guys aren't listening to his podcast, he's a student of history, former Marine. He is unapologetically anti-communist, and I think we really should all become anti-communist. It's kind of borrowing some of the language of the Marxist movement of anti-racism, like that. Ibram X. Kennedy or Kendi actually coined in a lot of his articles and books that were children's books, the anti-racist. Anti-racism is that you can't just be non-racist and not racist. You have to actively pursue being not racist and go out and shine light on people that are racist and all of this stuff. It's not just good enough to not be racist. You have to be an activist for anti-racism. And I think, honestly, let's borrow that. And Jesse Kelly does a very good job of doing that. And I actually have one of his shirts that says anti-communist on it. And I think we should honestly be anti-communist. We should seek out those things. I'm not so sure that that McCarthy was wrong with the Red Scare, in all honesty. I really am not. I honestly think that if we looked at it through the historical lens that we probably should, we would probably say, yeah, he was onto something way ahead of everyone else, that there were communists.
When I grew up, John, I've got 10 years on you or so. If you took American politics from the Democrats, the Republicans, and again, they were both the same, two sides of the same coin. But if you plotted them on a political spectrum on a global basis, they would have been center right. So in other words, here's the center and here's the right side, and the Democrats and Republicans would have been right beside each other. But what's happened since then is the Republicans, or conservatives, I should say, because Republicans are brutal, have essentially stayed where they were on the spectrum, and the left has gone hardcore left, like way far left, which is why the sheriff of LA County just announced a couple days ago that he was leaving the Democrat Party because he doesn't recognize it anymore with all of these, things like cut your equipment off and become the other sex and so on and so forth. But this one here, and then I'll go back to being the producer. This is pretty interesting here. The Soviet Union fell in 1991, and with it fell the shadow of global communism. But while Americans breathed a collective sigh of relief at the thought of communism's demise, a new conspiracy developed at home, hiding behind a veil of progressivism.
Oh, yes.
Today's communists have infiltrated many of the institutions that Americans cherish and use their newfound power to control and regulate the actions of everyday Americans. Boy, could you go down a deep rabbit hole with that?
We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Absolutely. Yep. We are going to get there, because you remember I said earlier, communism doesn't ever really die. It just rebrands. And that's the key to all of this, is it just really rebrands and keeps on plugging away. Jesse Kelly, I was listening to one of his episodes the other day, and he said something really profound. The difference between us and an actual communist is that when we go into an area, we don't think about trying to take it over. The communist says, oh, I'm going to go get on my local school board and I'm going to affect things there. I'm going to do this at work by going to HR and telling them that we don't have enough equity. I'm going to do it at church by indoctrinating people into this thinking, by warping scripture and making us think that, Jesus was actually a socialist, because that's a movement that happened within the church. It is wherever they are, they're activists. And that's why they're so effective. And we don't do that. We're not by nature, as conservatives, we're more like, leave me the F alone, more than we are, let's get involved in everything and try and change everything. And honestly, we probably need a little bit more of that, in all honesty. We need a
Well,
little bit more activism for conservative Christian and constitutional values. That's the only way to counter this.
We shot ourselves in the foot by being lowercase l libertarians and saying, look, do whatever you want to do, just do it over there, leave me alone. As long as
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt anybody, I don't care. But what that did is we gave them the inch and they took the proverbial mile. And
100%.
now they've woven themselves into every aspect of our society. And the problem with this, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but I would love for somebody to show me anything in recorded history where two diametrically opposed parties have ever been able to peacefully coexist. Their word, not ours. It never happens. One side always wins out, whether it's politics, communism, religion, whatever the case may be. And why are they doing this to us here in America? We are the firewall between globalism and freedom. If America goes down, the whole world goes down to the globalist cabal, the money kings, and you will be eating the bugs at that point in time.
Yep. It's it's really interesting because and tied even tighter to that is why we should defend the Second Amendment with absolute reckless abandon. You guys have no idea how much that has thwarted this movement over the years. It's the in my mind, it's the single most, that and the providence of the Almighty and the Second Amendment have been the biggest firewalls against a movement to full on socialism and communism in this country. They've hacked away small sections of it. Actually, they've hacked away probably a pretty large section of it. Just look at our institutions. Look at our social services and things like that. And all of that stuff is just that slow walk. And that's really what they want, is just to slow walk us. And then they'll have an event like everything that happened in 2020. The George Floyd riots was steeped and dripping in communism. Antifa, the communists and the fascists fought. That was part of the beginning of World War II. What's ironic is like Nazis were actually national socialists as opposed to international socialists. That's really the difference. It's not, the communism is a global scheme. It is to take over the world, whereas stuff like fascism is more focused inside of a country. It's more of a nationalistic type thing, but they're both socialism. They're both communism. And so, I thank you for removing him. He was spewing some stuff. We had a troll in the chat. So, So
your friend Jesse Kelly, here, I'll let you take it over, but this is a really important comment here that I'm sure people have noticed, but never really thought about it as far as it being so organized. So I would pick up right there. I want to hear your thoughts, to be honest with you.
Yep. So the communist is excellent, especially when he is working his way through all institutions like he has. He's excellent at building verbal fences around us, and he doesn't just build one fence. He's always closing it in. So shrinking it and closing it in and closing it in. So there are certain things that you can't say. And even if you say this today, you can't say it tomorrow because I've adjusted the language. Boy, does that sound familiar, right? You can't say this word because of that. You can't do this because of this. And it's a constant moving target, so you can't center on it. And nobody wants to be, nobody in their right mind. Yeah, you may not care if people call you names, but nobody really wants to be called names. Nobody really wants to be framed a certain way. Nobody in their right mind. So that's the tactic they use. They immediately put you on your heels in a defensive way by using the language that they have deemed. They fight on the ground of their choosing, is essentially what he's saying. They are fighting on the ground of their choosing. And the only way that we take that out is to fight on ground of our choosing, to counter the narratives and not care that they're going to spew their hatred. 100%.
Did you want to hit this one or not, John? I think we might have. I probably had them out of order, but this one.
Yeah, I don't think so, and I may have accidentally skipped over it. So this is Josu Sierra. late last year, the theological underpinnings of communism, more than just politics. So this is an article that frames how that Marxism and communism has been defined as a socioeconomic ideology, a style of running your economy. It's a political way of doing things, but it's much more than that. It's in the ongoing disclosure surrounding communism and Marxism, a crucial aspect often goes overlooked. These ideologies function less as mere political and economic theories and more as theological systems. That's a key point.
So I would stitch two words together here with Team Obama and everybody who subscribes to his thought processes. They are slaves to an ideology, and that's what this is. You can put different words on it, but it's an ideology that is not flexible. And if you don't agree with it, then you should be shot in their mind.
Yep. And the next the rest of that paragraph, as we navigate the increasingly tense landscape of modern political discourse, it's imperative that church pastors and leaders recognize the profound religious nature of communist and Marxist ideology, particularly in its relationship with atheism. So this is the stuff that we saw in 2020, the struggle sessions that churches were having in these statements of, oh, we're not racist in this church, we're not this, we're not. That's a struggle session. When we get to Mao and we start talking about that, you're going to find out what that actually means. This is basically that you're put through this agonizing thing that you're going to have to admit all of your wrongs. It's kind of like confessing your sins before God, but you're confessing your sins before man, and it's the sins that he deems you guilty of. And because of that, there is no real redemption. You just suffer. And that's the difference. But the problem is it's not just political. Communism isn't simply a political or economic theory that happens to be associated with atheism. Rather, it is atheism applied to promote through political, cultural, and economic systems. It is designed and intended to form or to use religious language, disciple, and under its influence, absolutely reject all other worldviews. So, as Christians,
that sentence there,
right there,
is super concise.
Yep.
That captures it right there.
Yeah, it's a hermeneutic religion. So, when you talk about that, that's the beliefs of what you espouse. And if you wonder why Disney is not taking the hint to stop putting this Marxist garbage in their movies, and they're still making them, it's because it's not about making money. It's about a religion. It's about their ideology. It's the same reason that you see all of these people embracing the LGBTQ and doing all this stuff. You see, spoiler alert, we're coming up on Pride Month. So that's when you start seeing all of these companies, all these corporations bow the knee to the Marxist ideology of you will confess your sins, you will be an ally, you will be a believer in this God. That's what this is. That's what this is. And we are running low on time, so let's wrap this up with some closing thoughts.
If we don't have time to speak to this, do you want to, or don't have time to play it, do you want to speak to it briefly before we move on?
Well, I actually sent this in the chat to everybody so they can watch.
Cool.
An hour and 40 minutes long. Why don't you bring it back up and we can just play the very beginning of it, because it's very, very the first minute or so, and then we'll close it out.
Manifesto, anybody remembers, is workers of the world unite.
Yeah.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
Yeah.
But But if you just go back one paragraph at the end, right? The communists support every revolutionary movement, the forcible overthrow of all existing conditions. I mean, those lines are in the next two final paragraphs. Yep. And that's what really the manifesto is all about.
That's good. Did you hear what he just said? The breakdown of all institutions. What was Black Lives Matter's moniker in 2020? Remember? We went over this a couple of weeks ago. We showed it. The destruction of the nuclear family, the removal of the father, patriarchal lead, all of this stuff, the destruction of all of the institutions.
I would argue that people from that community started destroying their family units many years before 2020.
Yep.
Entrenched in a particular culture. Let's put it that way.
Yep. So in closing, what a journey we've been on today. I know it's a lot to take in, and we've got a lot more coming. But communism isn't just a political system. It's a godless ideology. It's stooped in and dipped in atheism. It denies our creator. It seeks to enslave us under the state. And Marx and Engels didn't care about working man. They wanted power. They were willing to tear down faith and freedom to get it. As Christians and conservatives, we need to recognize this beast, and I truly believe it is a beast, for what it is, and resist it with everything that we've got. We'd love to hear your thoughts. So if you guys head over to Substack and put a comment in underneath our episode here, because we stream this episode on Substack. Also, join us on the Guardians for our paid subscribers. And this is a way for you guys to show us support and get some awesome content as a thank you. If you guys believe in what we're trying to do here at Survival Dispatch, we would humbly ask for your support. And if you guys go over there, you will not be disappointed with the stuff that you get. The Signal chat, the free guide for survival that'll get you through just about any kind of SHTF situation. Also, you're newly, just a couple of weeks ago, released all of our survival e-mags, which a ton of effort, time, and money went into creation of those. And you get access to the Signal chat, as well as the free streams to our Guardian tier on Saturdays with Chris. Chris, you have anything else to add?
Mondays.
Out Mondays. I keep on making that. That's a new change, and I apologize. My brain still is on the old. It's going through the old. I need to read a little bit better, but it's actually not on Saturdays. It's on Mondays after the normal episode, so you'll get 2 hours of content. If you're a Guardian, you get that behind the scenes after the normal scheduled program that is live for everybody for free. So
I would add that, I was up at 0400 yesterday and worked until late last night. Today, 0500 on a Sunday, working 7 days a week. So when we have sponsors like CCW Safe who send us a small stipend each month, and we have members who send us small stipend each month, that allows us to produce this content. Because if it's not for that, then we got to go punch a clock somewhere, work in corporate America. So, it's greatly appreciated for sure. And as far as the Guardian stuff is concerned, $9.99 a month or $95 a year, you get 2.5 months for free. Doesn't matter if it's Substack or Patreon. We do both because there's been a lot of people canceled. So if we get canceled by Patreon, for example, we'll still have everything together over on Substack, and they don't do a lot of censorship. I threw in the 49 e-magazines. So a dozen of them are like 2-page checklists for various prepper things. And the other 37 are full magazines, some of them as long as 228 pages. The founder of Survival Dispatch, which is going back years before I acquired the company, spent over $1 million on payroll to produce those 49 magazines. They are exceptionally high quality content. You've got people who've won TV shows like Alone on there. It covers urban survival. So basically, if you sign up, there's at the top of Substack, there's a thing that says e-magazines. And as soon as you sign up, there you go. You can go in there and you can download all the PDFs. If you're on Patreon, just send an email, support@survivaldispatch.com, and I'll give you another link where you can go ahead and download all the e-magazines. But we want to have more value, as much value as we possibly can for our members. And that's basically it. Tomorrow night, John Martin and I will be on to discuss essentially Europe is full steam ahead at banning people the way they wanted to ban Donald Trump, right? Marie Le Pen, you've got the party, what is it? The AFB party or AFD party in Germany being declared far right. Therefore, they shouldn't be allowed to run because they're becoming popular. And we have to watch what's going on over there because it's the recipe of what they've already tried it under the last installed administration, but now they know they got to go to the next level. If we don't win the midterms, they will impeach and throw Donald Trump in prison, and we will be screwed as a country. At the very least, we will end up a very balkanized country. And I mean balkanized in the true sense of the word, not, metaphorically. So
like 1858 balkanized type stuff. Yeah.
Yep. And then, so tomorrow night, just because we're out of time, 8 p.m., 8:05 p.m., call it Eastern time to 9. The aftermath is on SHTF prepping for your fur babies. So we've got a pretty cool download. It's got a checklist on it and stuff. We've got some good content to cover. If you haven't been in aftermath before, it's not formal. I'll have a conversation with you while you're in the chat and I answer your questions. I've got a bunch of stuff I can show you on screen, kind of guide you through some of the things that you should have for your pets tomorrow night. And that'll be every Monday from now on from 8 till 9, essentially.
Yep. Thank you. And guys, hats off to Chris. He has been working his butt off this week and sharing stuff with me. And dude works so hard to bring this content to you guys. I'm just going to say, Chris is a great close friend of mine, and he works very hard to bring this stuff to you guys. So let's appreciate that for sure. And our next episode in this group of episodes is the Red Baptism, Lenin, Cheka, and the Cult of Violence. So we're moving forward into really when the blood of communism started to be spilled. So that's going to be a really interesting one. Last question: are you doing your series on communism every Sunday, or are you going to do it Sundays and Tuesdays until you get through? So yeah, I had to narrow it down to like 10 episodes. So we will probably do it sequential unless there is a big news thing that breaks, that's going to break up the series, but we'll just start it back up the following my normal stream day. Cool. So yeah, just be looking forward to that. We've got a lot of this coming in. Good job. I mean, I've seen your notes on it. It's pretty thorough. I don't think that there's many people in your generation that have the knowledge on Marxism and communism that you do. And great job. Thank you. And thank you guys. Just a real special thanks for everybody that joined us tonight. We love bringing this stuff to you. We love giving you guys information, giving you guys the tools and the weapons to go out and fight a smart battle. Not just a winning battle, but a smart battle. Because if you approach these things intelligently and with the right tools in your belt, you can actually change people's minds on things. Some you won't be able to, but some you can. And so this is John, and I'm going to sign off. And remember, keep the faith, and let's keep fighting for the republic that God gave us and blessed us with. God bless America, guys. Hang out for a cool video. I think it's about 2 minutes long. It's a spoof, but it's great. It's called Mama MAGA. Enjoy it. God bless America.
I live in a swamp down in ODC where it bubbles all the time like a giant carbonated soda. It's OD, soda. Saw a mystic being sitting on a log. I asked him his name, and in a booming voice he said MAGA, 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 Mama MAGA. Well, I've been around, but I ain't never seen Trump who looks like Yoda and he's wrinkled green. No, my MAGA. you got on my MAGA, my MAGA. No, Joe Biden really got you a no. Remember, if you defeat him, then the Dems are destroyed. Oh, my MAGA, my MAGA, my MAGA.